Hi everyone, I am Damayanti. Welcome and thanks so much for coming today. With today's chat session, we mark the launch of InVolMEnt, a web platform and a national network for basic science, engineering, and medical science students, especially undergrads, to access internships, volunteering, mentorship, and entrepreneurship opportunities. First, our three speakers will share their internship stories for 10 minutes each. In the meantime, you're welcome to put your questions in the chat box. After all the speakers' stories, we will answer your questions, and if you are comfortable, please feel free to raise your hand and ask your questions yourself as well. But for now, we request everyone to please keep their mics off. Now I'll hand it over to our first speaker, Zian Pitavla. Over to you.
Yeah. So I hope I'm audible and my screen is also visible.
Yes, Ian, we can hear you and see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ritika, Bandhan, Academic Plot, and Involvement for inviting me, and thank you everyone for joining in today. I'm Zian Pitavla, a second-year undergrad student studying biochemistry from Shri Venkateswara College, University of Delhi. In my first year, I completed 4 research internships, and in October 2021, I won in Heck Harvard 2021. So today, I would be mentioning a subset of what I did and the key takeaways which would be helpful for everyone present here. So I hope after listening, all of you would be able to understand that you can learn any subject or any skill, how to make the best use of your first and second year also, and how imperative networking really is. So, starting with my journey, in my 11th and 12th grade, my major subjects were physics, chemistry, and biology, and I did not have mathematics. I was in constant touch with my seniors and my professors. I connected with my seniors initially on social media platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram, and eventually the network got bigger as the time went on. I asked them, hey, what should I do in college? What would you advise me if I wanted to go into research, etc. etc. Most of my seniors did say that first year is a great time to have fun because, of course, the workload is the least. But they also said that the summer internship programs like SRIP of IIT Gandhinagar, Surge of IIT Kanpur, and Spark of IIT Roorkee, etc. Uh, Although these programs are really competitive, so I thought I should have a prior research experience so that it would increase my chances of getting selected into one of these programs. So coming on to my research experience. So my first research internship was at the System Realization Laboratory at the University of Oklahoma. I worked in the field of systems dynamics, which involved identifying dilemmas while solving issues. It was my first exposure to research and one of the most important, as this research internship trained me really well. This is when I decided I wanted to do research in the future. After that, I got selected for the summer research internship program at IIT Gandhinagar, wherein I worked on the project of computational approach to model DNA nanodevices with membranes and simulating it to study the interaction with proteins, ligands, and other biomolecules. I learned about molecular dynamics simulation, nanoengineer software, and also about the theory behind the field of DNA nanotechnology. My college too has an internship program called Shri Vipra, and I worked on the project of computational characterization of food allergens prevalent in India that involved using various bioinformatics tools and coming up with efficient ways to do mundane tasks. Like there were several monotonous tasks that can be easily automated using Python programming language. And in October, I and my team won the best healthcare hack, and I developed a machine learning based web application that can detect tuberculosis from lung scans with an accuracy of 97.14%. Now, of course, the outcomes of these were fruitful. One materialistic outcome was that I did get certificates, although the skills and experience which you get are far more better than the certificates. And these internships and experiences did give me a better clarity of what I wanted to do in the future. That is, getting a PhD in computational biology or bioinformatics and doing research. So, coming on to the challenges and the solutions which I came up with. Being a first year student, the challenge which I had faced is that I did not have enough credibility to prove my skills as I had no prior research experience. Moreover, I did not have mathematics as my subject in 11th and 12th. But being a first year student just starting out is a good thing too, because I was open to learning new subjects, having the freedom to explore various domains without restricting myself from college's major. Not only enhanced my knowledge, but it also opened several doors for me and gave me confidence to learn new subjects, irrespective of my background. Being a student who knew programming and had a background in biology made me stand out and gave me an edge over other students. I did learn mathematics, and this is where I want to emphasize that you can learn any subject you want if you are willing to learn. When I was starting out, I was confused what to put in my empty CV. So, like every first year student, I did several Coursera courses and I added those certificates in my CV. And I attended too many scientific webinars and I added their certificates in my CV as well. So, some scholarships for internships like Chirpa Club scholarship also need no objection certificate and NOC from the college, and thus coordinating with the administration is also something that you would learn in the process. So, in conclusion, choose people wisely, be it your friends, professors of your college, internship, or a PhD advisor in the later stage of your journey. First, you make your network, and later, your network makes you. Share what you do on social media platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter. Make full use of it, leverage it, and use it really well. Although, be careful on these platforms as not everyone you find here may wish good for you. Learn skills and concepts that add value to people's work and life. Remember that you can learn new concepts despite your background. And also, the three P's: purpose, practice, and persistent would help you a lot in life. Try solving the hardest problem early on in your career. Because if you solve the hardest problem, you would stand out from other people. And even if you fail, you would still learn a lot while solving the hardest problem, which you would not have learned otherwise. And failing early on in your journey would not have much impact because probably nobody would remember and basically you have nothing to lose. Success breeds more success. Finding your first internship is the hardest, and finding the another internship would be easier because you already have credibility now. Plus, you'd gain even more confidence as you go through the journey. And lastly, grades do matter, and try to be in top 5 or even in top 3 if possible of your class or department. Do enjoy college life, but also keep the future in mind as well. So, with that, thank you so much for listening, and now Aishwarya would take over.
Hey guys, that was such a nice presentation by Zian, and I hope to build on it during the course of my talk. And I'm going to start sharing my screen now. I hope it's visible. Ritika, can you let me know on that?
Yes, it's totally fine, and we can hear you well as well.
Okay, that's perfect. So I'm an intern at Tasmania Medical College. That's the final year of the medical degree. And some of the key points I would like to cover in my talk today, and building on what Zian said, would be on how to narrow your research interests and how to start finding mentors and opportunities right from your first year. And also the unique dilemma that medical students face, which is how to decide between focusing on basic and clinical research, and also how to find national and international internship opportunities, and how to integrate the research that you do with your clinical rotations and your medical school curriculum in general, and how to learn what they don't teach you in med school on your own. So I start in my first year. I just kept my eyes and ears open while studying my regular curriculum, and it so happened that the cadaver I was working on actually had some anomalous radial artery branching. So I volunteered because literature review was the one thing that I knew I could pick up as a baby first year in the first month of medical school. So I asked my professor if I could volunteer to do that for that paper, and I did. And then later on in second year, I applied for a month-long research training in molecular techniques at the Center for Cellular Molecular Biology. And just as Zian said about having an empty CV in first year and trying to like put Coursera courses and things like this on your CV and like trying to build up your skills. I think that trying to find such structured opportunities like a structured training program or a structured online course or anything can be really beneficial early on, because it does allow you to learn. And especially if you haven't really worked out your interests yet, it does give you a pretty broad knowledge and some inspiration to start looking in the right direction. So I would definitely recommend that if you're unsure of where to start or you don't already have a clear project in mind. And also, that itself can serve as a springboard for you to then go after your interest. So, it was during this month long training that I actually looked up the labs at CCMB, and I found that I was very interested in the neuroepigenetics lab there. So, I wrote an email to the supervisor asking to visit the lab and then discuss potential project with him. And in my med school, so to present in my conference, I also did some research on autism, where we designed a questionnaire and interviewed the parents of autistic kids. And I wrote a proposal for a project on intrauterine growth restriction as well, which I submitted for the ICM, or short-term studentship. Now that's one of the biggest undergraduate research opportunities that is available to medical students. And in my third year, I went back to CCMB to spend a couple of months under Dr. Kumar working on analyzing RNA-seq and microarray data in a mouse model of depression. So he worked on epigenetic mechanisms underlying epilepsy and depression. And I learned a lot as a result of that. And so my final year and internship, I didn't get a lot of time for research, but I do have an upcoming project on CSF biomarkers in Alzheimer's at Johns Hopkins scheduled in the coming months. So in addition to like the molecular skills that I picked up, and we did learn some basic bioinformatics during the training as well, and I got to do literature review. I realized the importance of networking and conferences, as Zian says, pretty early on, because in addition to being something that that you can put on your CV, and in addition to getting you in touch with the right people, it also just in and of itself gives you drive to present your work. And learning to present your work and learning to identify the aspects of your work that are important and how to take them forward and how to answer questions based on them is really important. And plus, when you participate in conferences, from like a poster presentation to a seminar to maybe even a quiz, and when you participate in organizing your college's conference, it does teach you a lot of management skills, and it allows you to get creative. So that's another thing that I would recommend for everyone, like at all stages of your undergrad course. And apart from the things I mentioned, some of the other takeaways for me were that every single step of the research process is equally crucial and important. So like I mentioned, the project on growth restriction that I submitted to ICMR, but it wasn't selected. And then later, because I had my research at CCMB, I couldn't write a paper on that project. But even the act of writing the proposal itself taught me so much, and I actually ended up using all the skills I learned at that step for my subsequent projects on autism and neuroepigenetics. So whether your project doesn't make it past the proposal stage, or you actually manage to publish a paper as first author, every single step is important and teaches you a lot. So I would suggest that lack of time or your hesitancy about whether you'll be able to see the project through or not shouldn't stop you from starting anyway and trying to go as far as you can. And also, a lot of the life sciences, including medicine, are applied fields. So we borrow from the basic sciences, and a lot of the techniques and topics that you would learn in one context would give you an idea about how to apply it in another that you might be more interested in. So never dismiss anything you learn in your medical school or during your research as unimportant or unrelated to your interest, because you can repurpose. All of these are transferable skills. You can repurpose what you learn. What staining techniques you learn in pathology to get through your exam, you will use in your research career if you work with immunohistochemistry. So a lot of it gets repurposed that way. And also, it's important to make a conscious effort to be creative during your research process and not mechanically follow the advice of your mentors or anyone. And often inspiration can come from the most unexpected of sources. So it's important to keep an open mind and keep questioning and trying to find alternate ways to accomplish your goals. That's another key realization that I had. And one of the common things that all of us face and that I faced was difficulty in understanding where to start. I knew I was interested in neuroscience, knew I was interested in molecular biology, but that's a field as vast as the ocean. So here again, apart from creativity, extensively reading up on your interests and trying to figure out the exact areas where you'd like to work is always a good thing to do. And like the idea to do the autism project came from my mom suspecting that I had Asperger's like when I was a kid, and my idea for some of the work I did at CCMB came from a book that I read. So it cannot be overstated. The importance of having open eyes and ears can't be overstated. So learn everything passionately and irreverently, because you really will find creative avenues that will help you narrow down your research question. And like Zian, I also took biophysics and chem in intermediate, and I didn't have the mathematical background, so I did have to pick up some of it independently. And OpenCourseWare is a great tool for that. And the same thing applied in my case to the basic sciences also, because we don't get very rigorous training in cellular molecular biology beyond just one paper in first year biochem. So I did have to pick that up on my own. And given that the curriculum in across all the STEM fields pretty much can be very demanding, and it might be difficult to balance research with your school curriculum exams and internships and clinical duties. I think changing my mindset from just trying to do as much as just trying to survive versus trying to really optimize my study techniques in medical school so that they left more time for me to pursue my other interests, and trying to just make sure that I could do better in everything I was doing. That was something that I found very helpful. And I'd like to wrap up with some of the key other advice that I have. And so another thing that's pretty important is when you do your internships, and in the case of medical students, when you do your clinical rotations, it's important to find out what research is going on in the department, whether or not it's a department that's you're specifically interested in. Because for a beginner to research, almost any topic can give you you can find interesting, and you can actually find a great project to do within it. So another way to narrow down what to focus on could also be the kinds of mentors that are available, because they do dictate, especially in clinical research, the data that you can get, and the networking with the lab and getting tests ordered and things like this. So it is important, and they'll also help you out with like the letters of recommendation, the NOC that Zian mentioned. So sometimes finding a great mentor and working on an interesting topic, even though it's not exactly what you're interested in, would often be very valuable. So I would advise everyone to do that. And it is important to pick up your data science and mathematical skills, linear algebra, basic calculus, and statistics, because they are the language science and medicine are written in. And you should also be cognizant of the fact that medicine is a life science. So a lot of the opportunities that are available life science students also applies to medical students. So so I would just advise people to go ahead and apply for anything that catches their eye. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya and Zian. It was such a pleasure listening to such different stories, and yet, we get those few principles of being enterprising and being just excited about science in general, which is the reason why we take science in school and continue studying it in our graduation level. So now I am going to, say a few things as well. I am Ritika. I am a final year undergrad in the Department of Zoology in Miranda House, University of Delhi. Do you see my screen and hear me well? I heard something.
Yes, no, loud and clear.
Yes,
All right.
loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And something Aishwarya didn't mention is that she and I are also part of the Rhodes Scholar cohort selected from India this year, and we're very excited to be going to Oxford. And I think we will both agree, as well as Zian could add to this, that our work experience and internship journeys have dictated a lot of what we will do going ahead. So that's what we want to share with you today. And we really hope that you gain something from this. And we look forward to answering your questions. We already have a few often asked questions ready that we got from many of the attendees and other people who said they couldn't make it, but they want these things answered. So we are recording this session as well. You can come back and watch it, go through our slides whenever you like. Well, in terms of work experience, I am a research intern at the University of California in Santa Cruz, where I've been working for nearly 9 months with a really wonderful team. And we study sleep in marine mammals like seals and a little bit in whales, but I work mostly on the seal part of it. And I'm also a research intern at the biodiscovery laboratory in my college Miranda House, where some of my professors mentor me. And I've done a few other things in the past that I'll take you through. Um, Through my talk, I hope that these are the few key points that you take home. The first thing being that you must not wait till the second or third year to explore your research interests, because really we just have 3 years in basic science undergrad courses in our country, in BSc courses. So it just don't think that what knowledge you come with from school is any less to pursue research, because research, as you would have already studied, is basically asking a question and looking for its answer. And you've already been studying the fundamentals in not just one discipline, but so many different disciplines. And that's why you should always try to embrace the idea of interdisciplinarity, of integrating all the different subjects you study, because in real life, physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics are really not that different. They all try to answer the same question, but add in different ways. Then I think it's really important, especially in my case, it was to communicate, to reach out to potential mentors, to even talk to your professors in college. But these communications, especially in the online times, are going to be mainly through emails. So we have to make sure that we write emails or communicate ethically, maintain all the rules, make sure that we don't make anybody uncomfortable. We do it effectively and we do it efficiently. We must try to make the most of our time, because again, it's just 3 years. So for many of you, and for even me and Zian and Aishwarya not so much because she's into a longer course and she's older than us, but especially for Zian and I, most of our education, graduate education, has been online, right? So our internships, especially for me, have been online. So that doesn't mean that they're any less rewarding. They teach you a lot of things that I'll tell you what I learned. And you must always try to write, express, participate, put your thoughts together, just make the most of it. So I'll break down my journey into the 3 years of my undergrad course. In the first year, I was totally clueless about what research is and what I'd even like to do after I graduate. I was just studying zoology because I loved animals and I loved biology and the sciences related to it. So I started reading. I started reading books, tried a bit to read research papers, although I don't think I understood much of it back then. But since I kept at it and tried to find out the meaning of each word, so when I started reading, I couldn't really understand even a single sentence, but you really develop as you go on, and reading the abstract and the discussion gets you interested, and that's why you try to understand the methodology a little bit. I watched lots of YouTube videos, tutorials, whatever open courseware I could find online, and that helped me understand how things work in a laboratory to a certain extent. And that's how I found what fascinated me. And I figured out that I was fascinated by sleep and rest and those kinds of states that we tend to ignore a bit, but it's really, really cool. So I started putting my thoughts together and tried to generate evidence of interest. Now, some people say that for applying to fellowships, scholarships, you must have publications, and that is your evidence of interest, but that's not really true all the time. Evidence of interest can be anything that you were really invested in, really interested in it, put your heart into it, put a lot of effort into it. For example, college projects, presentations, colloquia, everything that your college organizes is actually an opportunity to show how interested you are in a certain topic. So I knew that I was interested in neuroscience and, as I said, the neuroscience of sleep especially. So I tried to integrate those things in whatever projects I did. And even if I couldn't integrate it into that, I I just picked whatever topics I liked, and if the topics were fixed, I tried to put in, you know, different papers related to the topic that I found fascinating. So science is such, it's just fascinating, and you must take these opportunities as chances to prove your capabilities, to show your effort, and not just for marks, not just for internal assessments. Also, you must try to find the best use of your transferable skills, like I did, but in a research environment. So I tried, I knew I was a little, I was okay at writing. I could speak a bit, but not that well. But yeah, I could write. So I started writing and doing a lot of literature reviews. I wrote scientific matter for a group in Germany. I wrote about stem cells. So that way I had to read. I was forced to read a lot of advanced literature, scientific papers, articles. And in the process, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of statistics from that, things like p values, ANOVA, those kinds of stuff. So if you're constantly looking for things that are fun, that are interesting or different, you will in the process learn a lot or pick up lots of things, even if you may not know the whole meaning of them right then. And I participated in competitions, quizzes, and many extracurricular activities. I sing. I participated in the ICER quiz called Mimamsa, which I'd recommend all of you to do if you're interested in science, because the process in itself is really interesting. The quiz questions are really thought provoking. And I also participated in a hackathon with some of my friends, which was totally out of my league. But we went to WWF and worked on designing an application that could tell you about poaching and hunting practices in a certain area. So it would help in monitoring. So that was really different, and yet it integrated computer science, which I've never studied, and my background in zoology. So you must look for such things, and that's what helps you broaden your perspective. Then year two and year three for me have been online, and that's where I got my real research internships, not just writing or participating in things. And I also did a few add-on courses, such as in biostatistics, which is ongoing, and medical biotechnology, those sorts of things. And the third year was also focused greatly on graduate school applications. So these are the main skills that I learned in my 3 years, apart from what I learned from my college. Literature search and writing may not seem like really important things, but actually they are. They are at the core of any research question you ask. You have to know what has been done in the field, and only then will you be able to present what can be done and write it, because ultimately publication or peer review has to see written matter, right? So these were really vital to the process of trying to become a researcher in the long run. So I wrote about stem cells. I did a lot of literature reviews for a project at AIMS Delhi. And in the first year, I did a review on unihemispheric sleep, which is a fascinating phenomenon in which one half of your brain is sleeping while the other half is awake simultaneously. This happens in some whales and some seals, not all. So I was working on this, and also it also happens in birds. It's a different topic altogether. But that review helped me get in touch with the people I can now work with, because I could show them that I was interested and this is what I had already tried to do on my own. Of course, I was mentored by my teachers. Then, when I started working in the University of California team online, I've done it all sitting at home. I found a very nice team where all of us could teach the other something. Our mentor was very supportive, and I don't think I'd know whatever I know today without her support. And the story of how I got in touch with my mentor is also fascinating, because one day I was reading a few papers. I found her name in one of the references at the very bottom. And I looked her up, stumbled upon her personal website where she writes about her art and a little bit about her research. Then I wrote her a note from the contact form that you find on the websites. And that's how we got in touch. So this also tells you that every opportunity for communication may lead to something really beautiful, maybe a mentorship or a friendship for life. Then the other internship I did working on Mycobacterium tuberculosis using in silico approaches was mostly towards bioinformatics, and that taught me a lot about statistics and many of the other database oriented large data banks of biological or genomic, proteomic, transcriptomic data available, which is vital to any biology related study going ahead. And similarly, I also acquired a few skills in public speaking, leadership, videography, and teamwork. Not, I mean, of course, from all the internships I did, but also from starting this initiative InVolMEnt, where we try to make internships, volunteering, mentorship, and entrepreneurship opportunities a little bit more accessible to students in science, engineering, medical sciences, with a special focus on undergrads, because we're stuck between school and postgrad levels, and people forget that we need to have some work experience too. So, what did I learn? It helped me set some of my life and career goals, but there's no sweat if you can't do that. You're not expected to this early, but it does give you a sense of direction. I learned a lot of skills. Experiential learning was unparalleled. You get authorship on some research papers, and that's really cool. I got one. I'm a second author on a paper that we've submitted, but this is not always necessary. You should not look for authorship or publications. That shouldn't be what motivates you. If you get it, if it culminates in that, then great. Certificates, like Zian also emphasized, you need it sometimes if you are going through a, for example, many students are on the Inspire scholarship, and they need to, in order to receive funding for their project, show that they have done something in the form of either a letter or a certificate or a report. So it's great if that's what the situation is, but you must remember that they are not always necessary and they do not matter in the long term. It's just a part of the documentation. Experiencing a professional atmosphere, working with international groups, making friends for life is something that there's no replacing that. And most importantly, I had a lot of fun, and that's the most beautiful part, I think, of being in science. Every day you learn something new. Um, of course, there were challenges to which we had to find solutions, the online learning being one of the biggest challenge, but you have to take that as an opportunity, right? You have to utilize that little bit of extra time and look, surf, try to really find yourself, introspect, and that's what I did as well. Find online internships. Many people say that, like Zian also said, in the first year it's really difficult to show that you have any background at all. So the key is to show your mentors that you can think, because they don't really seek subject knowledge all the time. They want to know if your concepts are clear, if you have know the basics, which you will anyway know before you get in touch with a potential mentor. You will do a research, do some homework before you get in touch with anybody. So you have to show them that you can find answers to questions, you can find solutions to challenges, and a way to do that is to reflect what you have done, maybe not exactly in their field, but in any field, any question that you've tried to answer by thinking or showing originality of thought. And you can do that by writing really meaningful emails and not always cold emailing. Mm, Being a deep learner is always a challenge because there are so many resources out there, and if you're trying to pick up a new skill set or knowledge about something, then it all often gets difficult to figure out where to start, so and where to learn well. So that's why we are trying to gather or collate some resources that can help you learn some of the basics of biostatistics, mathematics, that can help you. This one is a little biology student focused, but of course, we are planning to diversify and getting more speakers. And handling multiple projects with your practical file writing is often difficult, but trust me, if you communicate with your teachers and professors and let them know your situation, they will encourage you to spend time on your projects as well. So I went over my advice mostly, but of course, you need to talk to your professors about their journeys and draw from their experiences, because every institution has people and every teacher is a person who was an undergrad student sometime. They will be able to guide you so well because they have gone through similar processes, right? Although some things are different now, but that experience, they know what you are going through, they will know your situation better than any other mentor. So you must talk to them and actively look out for new opportunities to learn. Surf the web. For example, my story, how I got in touch with my mentor. Always reach out. Don't be afraid to communicate. You shouldn't think that the person you're trying to communicate with or you want to talk to or ask for advice is such a high, is at such a high position that they would not bother to reply to your email. That might happen, but if you write a good email, if you are a really interesting person and you're able to get that through from with your communication, they will definitely reply. So that's why you must spend time drafting good, meaningful emails and not just send bulk emails where the salutation is dear sir slash madam. Nobody or very few people will reply to such emails. You must show that you are interested in your mentor's life's work. They put a lot of effort and a lot of their own self into the work they do. So you have to show that respect to their work and show that you're interested in it. And that's what your email should be focused at as well. Like I said, have an open mind, look at the big picture and integrate your knowledge from your knowledge, basic knowledge from different disciplines you studied at school, and adding to the CV as a first year student point that my colleagues made. You can surely list out any projects you did at school as well, because they were also questions you found answers to or tried to find answers to. So do not ignore them, even if you did them in 11th grade and not 12th grade, still integrate, put it into the CV. Believe in your interests. So many people in society, for example, for me, might say that, what, you want to study sleep? Why do you want to study sleep? Why not study some cool disease? So you need to really believe in your interest to be able to convey to them why your interests matter. You have to be able to stand your ground and find like-minded people. So find your friends, choose your battles. Not every question can be answered, but choose what you want to work on and work on it. And we are here. InVolMEnt is here to help you in this journey, and we really hope that you also fill in the feedback form that we gave you so that we can deliver better. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Right. So, yeah, Damayanti, you got some questions, right?
Yeah, but I would also suggest the others to unmute and ask the questions if they have, so we can take that first and go on to the others. Okay, so we do have a question here in the chat box. So Vishnu is asking, can I please know how you're managing to do so many internships along with college work?
Zian, you want to start answering that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Okay, great question. So, of course, there is college work, and I don't know what college timings do you have, but in my case, my college gets like 5 o'clock in evening, and then I have the entire like other 12 hours to work on. So it's really better if you use apps like Google Calendar, stay organized, and I guess it would help you a long way. Uh, to think of using Google Calendars and Microsoft To Do and all of those apps, be organized, and yeah, use your time well. I guess that's the only thing I can say. Right.
Also, I think the thing is, you need to prioritize. So sometimes some things are more important than others. So, for example, in the first year, you need to score well, but for many courses, it's easier to score well in the first year than in the following years. So, you can channelize your energy that way. Second year for me was difficult, so I couldn't work a lot, but the online situation was an advantage, so I could handle that. Then, so that's what you need to prioritize, what is more important and what needs more effort at which stage of your journey. That helps. Aishwarya, would you like to add something, or shall we move on?
Hi. I think you guys pretty much said everything that needs to be said. The only thing I would add on is that, as you guys, so as Zian emphasized in his presentation of the importance of being among the top few students in the department, and as you said, to have a realistic idea of how long your schoolwork takes you. I think it's also important to find techniques that help you become a better learner right in the first month of your undergrad program, because otherwise, having the not having a clear direction and not planning properly added to thinking you'll cram before exams is going to leave you not in any boat, and it's you're just going to end up wasting your time. So realizing what study techniques work the best for you, and realizing, talking to your seniors and having a realistic idea of how much time and effort you need to put in for a particular subject, and doing questions or making flashcard, whatever it is, and revising it repeatedly, it'll take you less and less time each time, and it'll free up your calendar to take care of other things. So maybe just focus on optimizing your study strategy to free up some more time in your schedule.
Okay, so should I move on to the next question?
Yes, please.
Okay, Vedanti has asked that earlier I thought of applying to a lot of opportunities as the mode of college was online. Now, since it's offline, how should I shortlist them? I don't have much experience since it's my first year at college.
Yes, Vedanti. We try to make that easy for you at InVolMEnt by shortlisting whatever opportunities are there. We keep updating the lists, and you can check out our website where we have that listing. We tell you what the application dates are, or even if the application dates haven't been released, we write down what the probable timing of the application is, which months it generally opens that way. So that is one thing. You can go to our InVolMEnt website. We'll put the link in the chat box once more. Second is that there is always your seniors in your college. Speak to them as much as possible. Find out who did what, because personal journeys teach you more than any website will. And that's why we have these kinds of sessions where we can tell you how we did it. So that's what I'd like to say. Aishwarya, Zian, you want to add something?
No, not from my side. I think we can move on to the next question. I guess that's interesting.
Yeah, same here.
So Vedanti only has asked the next question, and she asks that does lack of maths narrows down the opportunities in the research field?
Go ahead, Zian. This is your
Uh,
thing.
okay, number one, lack of math. It doesn't narrow down the opportunities, but it actually makes you more valuable in research because there are a lot less people. If okay, let's say your field is biology, right? So you need to ask yourself how many biologists are good at mathematics. I mean, of course, a good number of them are good at mathematics, but eventually, it's still not a big number. So I mean, if you have expertise in mathematics, you don't have to rely on someone else to do. And as Aishwarya said, mathematics is the language of science, and you are going to use it anyways. So it's better if you know mathematics. Otherwise, you would have to rely on others for the rest of your life. That's it.
I think to add on to that, as a person who doesn't know a lot of mathematics or didn't know earlier, you really enjoy learning mathematics if you try to learn it in the context of your discipline, which is always possible if you look for it online. So, like I said, we are going to share a resource link soon where all of us are going to put in such resources from where we learned whatever we learned online, and that might help you. So look out for that. We'll share them in WhatsApp groups and on our social media. On Twitter, we're active on Twitter, so you might want to follow us there. And adding on to that, your college education will always have some aspect of mathematics. Your practicals will be based on mathematics. There are always formulae. So I think Vedanti, you're from zoology, right? I guess. So yeah, you are going to have formulae. If you just try to look into where that formula comes from, that will teach you a principle of mathematics that you will be able to apply in many other places. So just get those basic principles or concepts, and you'll realize that you know a lot already. What you learned till 10th grade is in fact the logic or the basis on which most mathematics builds on. So just try to think mathematically, and it helps a lot. Yeah, I'm not that great at maths, but this is what I have understood so far, trying to make a conscious effort at learning maths.
Uh,
Um,
and-
there's
okay.
just another point that I would like to add to that, and it's that if for any reason you're intimidated or apprehensive about how to start learning mathematics, and like the fact that you don't have a background maybe in 11th or 12th or something would somehow impede your progress, I think you shouldn't worry about that being the case, because just like you know Ritika and Ziana said, there are specific courses. So if you go on to Coursera or OpenCoursera or anything, you will find mathematics for biology students, and you will find people who have designed courses targeting those with different levels of mathematical background. So you will definitely find a course that fits you, and you will definitely find a passionate educator who's like motivated to teach you and whom you enjoy listening to. And another point is that this arrangement has not happened by accident, because when you really think about it, a lot of the statistical tools that data scientists working in politics or something use, like maybe it's something like principal component analysis or anything, a lot of that has actually been invented to deal with just the sheer volume of data generated by like the Human Genome Project and RNA sequencing and stuff like that. So it's not just that you know statistics and mathematics feed into the biological sciences simply because you need to know them to get the hang of reading a research paper. It's also that biology feeds back into them and actually has inspired many ideas in those fields. So there is no, so that means essentially that the biologists were able to think like statisticians, and vice versa. So there's no need to like be intimidated or have this like inertia of rest and not want to start it. Once you start it, it'll become intuitive and reflexive, and it'll become just another thing that you do. So just start somewhere and find a course that works for you and stick with it and solve problems. That's the way to learn.
Okay, so I see that Shweta has raised a hand. So do you want to ask the question verbally before we move on to the
Yeah,
others?
sure, sure. Thanks, three of you, Ritika, Aishwarya, and Zain. I had a nice time listening to all of your experiences. So, my question is, how early do you start planning to apply for these internships? I ask this because, let's say I would want to try something out in the summer, right? One, there is a lot of uncertainty from the college side. They don't know when they're conducting their exams. We don't know whether we're going to have online classes or offline classes. So, and two, you have to look out for opportunities which align with your academic calendar. And given that that in itself is uncertain, how have you guys sort of worked around this problem?
Hi, Shweta. Thanks so much for asking a question this way. It's really nice to hear another voice. Uh, for me, I did, it was really uncertain. So I thought that I should focus on finding something that I like, that I really like. And honestly, when you start working with any group, you will figure out that every intern or every part of the group will have tough schedules and is trying to do this to learn something new. So they are often very understanding. Now, the first thing you asked is how to plan and when to start, right? I don't think there's any one time to start or any fixed month. You can, if you're reading, if you have something that you're interested in, even if that's not what you end up working on in the future, even if you find it interesting and you've been reading about it, then any time is good to start looking for opportunities. Now, looking for opportunities can mean a few things. It can mean uh, looking for organized programs like many of those that Zian mentioned, that IITs and ICERs have, that you fill an application form for. A different kind of opportunity could mean that you personally write to a mentor or a researcher whenever you find their work interesting, asking if they would be interested in, work taking you under them, if you could shadow them, maybe visit their lab sometime, since we don't know if it will continue online or offline for you at least. Um, so yeah, there's no one time to start. Anybody whose work you find interesting, who you think you could learn from, you can reach out to them at any time. If there is a formal program through which you can work with them, they might guide you to it. If not, and if they're still interested in taking you, then they will surely write back and let you know how it could go. So like I said, you have to plan according to your coursework, how heavy it is, in which year, and which months. So obviously, when your exams are on, you won't be applying in those months, or you won't be available in those months. So work around that. This time, these few months are good because they are far away from the normal exam season. And if you even take a little bit of a break during your exams from your internship, you can continue that work in the summer vacations that follow soon after. So this is how you need to think, and this you need to make clear to whoever you work with, that this is how my months are planned tentatively, and these are probably the times when I'll be most available to apply myself. Zian, Ashwarya.
Yeah, I think most of it was covered, but yeah, in just a special a note, a heads up. If you are actually thinking of emailing a US professor, it's better not to do before holidays because they would not be working during the holidays. I mean, in December, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, everything was covered by Ritika.
That's an excellent point by Zian. I was about to make that same point that they do check their email at certain times in the day and certain times of the year when they have vacation, they may not. And another thing is, it's a good rule of thumb to think about applying to international opportunities at least 6 months in advance. So that's like the minimum time I would say, because there are a lot of things there are documents that they require. You might have unforeseen delays in getting them from your college, and then later they'll obviously take many weeks to process your application, and then later you have to sort out your travel arrangements. So I think 6 months to a year at least would be a good time to do some advanced planning for international opportunities.
Do we answer your question well? Do you want to ask something else?
Yeah, no, thank you. That answers my question. But to follow up on what you were saying, Ritika, especially about exams and all that, I'm still in my fifth semester, though I'm supposed to be starting my sixth semester. So the thing is, it's really, really screwed up. So which makes it extremely harder for me. My summer vacation might get cut out and things like that. So that is something that's bothering me and stopping me from applying for anything new and I'm sort of continuing the ones that I already have. So yeah, so that's just a follow-up thought.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to put your feet into too many things at the same time. So if you think it's a good idea to continue with what you're working on, you don't want to mess up what you're already working on by taking on something new. So if not an internship, maybe you can look for a source to learn the principles of something new that you want to learn rather than,
Yeah,
committing your time.
yeah.
Okay, so the next question that I see in the chat is from Vanshika, and she says that can you share the procedure you follow that you're able to grab such an amazing internship at the University of California, and what procedure we should follow for the same?
My procedure, as I mentioned, was that I was reading and I found the person I'm working with. I found her name in the references of a research article that I was reading. I looked her up on Google through a few chains of links and found her personal website. There I found a contact form. Contact form is like this small box at the bottom where you can type something, type your thoughts, and that goes to the person who owns the website. And my message went through. I wrote about my interest in her work and I asked if she would need some sort of assistance. She said she did. I got a reply in around 1 or 2 minutes, which was a blessing. And that's how I work with her. But that's just a part of the whole process. The whole process, of course, involves reading and reaching that point where you find someone whose work you find interesting.
Will I move on to the next question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the next question is from Kuhu, and she has asked that how to find internships, and is there any website which offers a list of ongoing internships?
Yep, I put the website in the chat box.
Okay, so I'll just move on to the next question. Anushka has asked, I'd like to know how I may narrow down my particular area of interest. I'm currently torn between two areas of interest that are vastly distinct from one another.
Zian, Aishwarya, would you like to go first?
Sure.
You want to go first?
No, you can go first. No. Yeah.
Okay. I think a piece of advice I would have in this respect, because I know that I and a few other students have struggled with similar things where we're deeply interested in the basic sciences and we want to do like wet lab based research, but at the same time we also want to work with patients and do clinical research. So I think if you're torn between two vastly different areas, the first thing is you should probably try to see if your course and your time constraints allow you to work on both, because you, as Zian mentioned, once you have nothing to lose, so you may as well try to develop your skills in both. But if you really find yourself at the pointy end of things where you realize that you have to choose one over the other, then apart from just your raw interest, it might be good for you to do like a SWOT analysis. So you list out your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats or maybe challenges in the two fields that you have. So maybe in one field the internships are more accessible, maybe in one field there's a national level internship as well as international ones, whereas the other is less well explored in our country or has less opportunities. Maybe your own training makes you better fitted for one, and maybe one branch has excellent mentors whom you've already found versus the other where you have to go out and look for them. So beyond like raw interest and passion for each of these fields, these other factors will now start playing a role if you're equally interested in both but pressed for time. So I would recommend looking into those things.
Yeah, so it was perfect answer. Yeah, I think so that covers everything. First, look if you can do both or not. If not, then just go with one you like the most or the one which has the most potential, like of learning and future scope.
The next question is specifically for Zian and Aishwarya, and the question is from Ayman. The question is, can you tell us how you got your internship at Ottawa and Johns Hopkins, respectively?
Yeah, so I got my internship at Systems Realization Laboratory at the University of Oklahoma. Because I'm that professor, we were in the same webinar, and then I got connected with him through LinkedIn, and so yeah, that's basically how we got to know about each other. And then we talked, and as Ritika mentioned, they're not looking for subject experts when they're looking for freshers. They would be more interested towards your interest and the ability to ask the right questions. As he used to say always, you should ask the right questions, not always the right answers. Yeah. So nice value.
Yeah, so Johns Hopkins actually offers a research elective for international medical students. So I just applied for that, but it comes with the catch that you have to find a professor in the department to support your application. So before I actually filled up the form, I just went on to the Johns Hopkins neurology website because my own interest is in neuroscience, and looked up the work that people had been doing and found a few professors whom I was interested in. And so I emailed them talking about what I found most interesting in their work what what research experience I had and how I might be able to contribute to their work. And I just got a reply from one of them whose interests aligned with mine. And I think, Ritika's point of the fact that you really have to respect the professor and realize that it's their lives, it's the entire body of their life's work that you're looking at, and that you need to be cognizant of that and really show that you've done your homework in the email that you write to them is vital if you want to have a good communication with a possible mentor. So yeah, that's what I try to do.
The next question is, can we get an internship in computational biology research by just having 3 months of experience of programming?
Yep. So I mean the answer, like the question would be, do I have enough skills after 3 months of programming to solve questions in research? Technically, yeah. I mean, it is possible 3 months of programming, and it also depends on what language you are referring to. If it is Python or something, then of course you can. Like, it's a really easy language to learn, and also it's widely used in research. Python, and there's R also. So the question should be, can I actually solve problems with the skill set which I gained in 3 months? So I think so, yes. But again, it depends on with what, like how much did you learn, what concepts did you learn, etc. So yeah, I mean, you can ask yourself, if do I have enough skill set to solve a particular research problem? Don't And even Ritika said, just you should know what problems you are going to address. So that's it. If you are going to deal with a lot of data, there is no point in learning like Java. You should know pandas in Python and other NumPy and other libraries. So yeah, first ask what you are addressing, and then ask yourself, can I address this with the skill set which I learned in 3 months?
Okay, so there are no other questions in the chat box. Is there anyone who would like to ask something verbally. I see Prerna raising her hand.
Hello everyone. My question is to you, all of you, that I am in first semester right now, and my college is not open since from my starting. So I don't have any lab experience. So what kind of internships I am looking for?
You haven't been to college and have no lab experience. That's what you're saying, right?
No, actually, my college is not open from starting still now.
Okay, I
Um,
think that's more relatable with me. Yeah, so okay, now Delhi University is reopening, but before like a few weeks ago, even I had the same story that I did not have any wet lab experience, and I've never been to even the city of my college. And yeah, so the best part would be if you want to gain wet lab experience, you can go to the labs which are operational in your own area. But if you are looking, if you don't want to go there, then maybe if you are inclined to towards online internship, which is also equally great, then you can do computational based because that would make more sense. If you are going to do some theoretical wet, I don't think so if there is something theoretical wet lab or something. So it's better if you do some computational based internship. In that you would learn a lot, I guess.
I'd like to add that if you're still in your first semester, then you can also offer your assistance in literature research, because in that way you get to read a lot and get to organize your knowledge, which is very important for anything. So that's one thing that you can always try.
You can also try to pick up. So it depends on the kind of wet lab research you're looking for. So, for example, if it is molecular research, then there is actually quite a lot of genetics and cell biology background that you need to have even before you actually start wet lab research. So, spending the time that your college is close, trying to pick up at least the theoretical foundations of whatever experimental techniques you want to use on the future would also be a good use of your time. That way, you don't have to pick that stuff up on the job and you can actually focus on doing the experiments.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question for Aishwarya in the chat box which asks, would you recommend a final year student to go forward with doing ICMR or focusing on exams in these days?
Um, so I assume that this is referring to the ICMR short-term studentship, which is an opportunity for medical undergraduates to undertake like a 2-month research project. They typically open submissions in like Jan, Feb or so, and then once you submit the proposal, if your project gets approved, you then get to do it and then submit a report. So I would say that this particular answer really depends on which year of MBBS you're in. So if you're in, and also the clash with your exams. So I know that some colleges up north and things like that have their exams, you know, 6 months forward or backward from the ones in the south. Okay, you're in final year. So then I would definitely say, final year is the holy grail. So just forget about everything else and do medicine, surgery, obstetrics, gynecology, pediatrics, and orthopedics, because I can guarantee that you won't even be able to finish that stuff in time for your exams. So if you're in first, second, third year, I would definitely say, focus on ICMR. And the one caveat to this is if you're in final year, but you had submitted an ICMR proposal earlier, and for some reason it didn't get accepted, and you feel like you can work out a few kinks that you've identified and then resubmit, yeah, that might be a good thing to do. Then you can do the research at your own pace later. And another thing is, if you've already done some research and you would like to present it under ICMR, I think they do allow for that to if they do allow for you to submit that in proposal form, because then you can just do some additional data collection and then submit whatever data you already gathered also. So yeah, that would be doable. But other than that, embarking on a new research project in final year will eat up a lot of your time.
So, is there anyone else who would like to come up with any questions? Okay, in the meanwhile, I'll just add one question from my side that there are some cases where we need to get external sources of funding for the projects that we get selected for. So, any suggestions on how we can proceed with that?
Zian, why don't you tell us about your Sharpak program?
Yes, so there are certain programs like Sherpa program, which so in that you need to get an acceptance letter from a French laboratory, and then you have to apply for that scholarship. And I guess they would see can it be possible, and then they would fund you. So it's funded by the French Embassy of India. So yeah, you need to get two documents, one from the college, which is no objection certificate, and one acceptance letter from a French laboratory. So I mean, there are possibilities of funding, provided that you and it's in programs only. I don't think so you would get funding from emailing, because I heard this from some US professors that they cannot give funding to international interns apart like except from if they have like come through a program or something. But I don't think so they would be able to give funding to interns who have not come through a program. So yeah, a program is important for that funding.
A point that I can make here is that ICMR actually pays you once you finish. So if your project gets approved under ICMR and then you do the research, submit the report, they do pay you. And so as Zian said, like having a program is important. So this could also be another factor that you use to make a decision when you have like multiple interests. See whether the lab is well funded and has the equipment that you want to be trained on, because if it is, then 9 times out of 10 you won't have any hurdles in like trying to acquire that for yourself for your project if the lab already has it. And also, if you want to do like wet lab based research, I know that so some companies, they have this like quality control thing that they run on their ELISA kits and stuff like that. So if you write that you've got a project under ICMR, or that your college research unit is that has that it has approved and that you're embarking on, and you write to them, because you're a student, I think you would get a subsidy on acquiring that kit to run your experiments, because I know several medical students in my own college who have gotten that. So that might also be worth looking into.
Also, for those who are still in their first year, I mentioned a scholarship program called the Inspire Scholarship for Higher Education. They not only fund 3 to 5 years of your education, but they also provide 20,000 rupees extra for any mentorship or internship that you do, subject to submission of documents as evidence. So I think the application for that is still open, last I checked. So if you still haven't applied and are interested, you could apply to that. Yes. Great. And there are also some other agencies like CSIR, DBT, Wellcome Trust. These agencies may not directly fund you, but they can definitely fund the labs that you apply to. So it varies from project to project, situation to situation, a little less likely for undergrad students, but it is certainly a possibility. There's another program called the Inlax Shiv Dasani program that you can check out, which sometimes has funds for, I think, ecology related projects and some other projects. Also, there used to be, I'm not sure if it's still running because last year they didn't release forms, but there's a program called the IUSSTF Khorana program, which is, and there is an engineering version of that, the IUSSTF Viterbi program.
SN Bose, I guess. SN Bose.
Sorry?
SN Bose. The
Yeah,
engineer was an SN Bose.
yeah, and there's the Viterbi one also, no? They go to
USC Vita B. Yeah.
US Viterbi one.
I think two other funded ones are Fulbright and Amgen also, right?
Yeah, all of
Yeah.
these, they actually fund you if you already have a project, much like the Sharpak one. So these you definitely must check out. Anybody in any year. So That's
Also, there's a international internship program at the Cold Spring Harbor Lab in the United States, and that's a
Yes.
very prestigious, very excellent program, and it's funded. So I'm really surprised that most people don't even apply to this thing. Like, it seems like something we should all jump on board with. But yeah,
Exactly. Even the Max Planck program, there's a really
yeah.
cool Max Planck program for molecular biology, neuroscience oriented stuff, and the applications aren't that difficult. You just need to show interest. You need to be able to communicate their interest, basic stuff, and that's the problem. People don't know about it. They want to know, and we're trying to help. But yes, that's what. So definitely check these out. Go to our website. We are trying to put them out in one place for you.
And I also think a lot of international NGOs. So if you're in ecology or if you're in, zoology or and even like in medical science, a lot of NGOs actually have an R&D wing, especially the international ones. So if you are looking to combine like research and volunteering, or even if your research interest is something that they are interested in. So, for example, I know that Johns Hopkins actually has an international research program where many of the people are working on the ground in India on endemic disease like TB and stuff like that, and they get funding from Hopkins. So that way, if you are interested in a particular research topic and you find that it furthers the cause of some NGO or something, you can actually write them an email and reach out and discuss whether they'd be happy to sponsor your research.
Just to add to that, in India, there is a very nice foundation called the Next Gen Scientists Foundation, NGSF, that also funds any projects that you have already acquired. If you've already in touch with the lab that has agreed to take you on for a project, so you need to submit proposals and that sort of stuff. So check all of these out. We also put it out on our website. So yeah, Next Gen Scientists is a good place to look for funding as well.
Okay, so I guess we don't have any more questions to take up from anyone in the audience. Then we can close the session, I suppose. Okay, and I would like to thank all who attended today in the audience. It was wonderful to have you all, and thank you for coming up with your questions and making this session very interactive. And most importantly, I would like to thank all the three speakers for today for sharing your experience with us. It was really wonderful to listen to everything, and it was a good learning experience for all of us here. And thanks to Bandhan for providing us with this platform and this opportunity to conduct sessions like this. So thank you so much. And I would just remind you once again to fill the feedback form. It's already there in the chat box. And if anyone wants to join us as a speaker for sessions like this, then you can please mail us in the email address given in the chat box. It's involvement@academicport.in. It's there. So please reach out to us if you're interested to share your experience with us.
Thank you all for coming. Had a great time. Thank you, Aishwarya, Zian, Bandhan, Damayanti, Vinay. Vinay, unfortunately, he's involved in the recording, so he couldn't talk to us, but he's also part of the team. So thank you so much, and see you soon in the next session. Thanks all for appreciating us, and please let us know what you think. Write to us, and let us know if you'd like to join hands with us. Thank you so much.